Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Ride Along Radio Show, the show where we give you the perspective of riding in a police car with two grizzled police veterans as we patrol the mean streets of Los Angeles, and we talk straight talk about the issues of the day. And today we actually have three grizzled veteran police officers with us. We had three, and then we went down to two, and now we have another one today as a guest. So I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras.
And our guest today is Marshal Mc Clain, who is not only a police officer, he is also the president of the Los Angeles Airport Police Officers Association, which is the labor union representing the police officers at LAX Airport, Ontario Airport, Van Nuys Airport in the city of Los Angeles. It's actually a pretty large agency, and one of which I, full disclosure, a former member of and a former partner with Marshall. So if we snicker at some inside joke stuff, that's exactly what it is, and it'll stay in the car. So so we always start off with our police backgrounds and our political perspectives, et cetera, et cetera. I got 25 years on, worked a bunch of different agencies, two different agencies, a bunch of different assignments, everything from SWAT to K-9 to selling dope to being office pogue to working the streets, riding a bicycle, et cetera, supervision, so on and so forth. And Gil's got a rather interesting and varied background in law enforcement himself.
Yeah, I've got both sides, both as a police officer, gang expert. Used to buy dope back in the day, and I also have about 10 years as a criminal defense investigator working with a former partner of mine. So I've worked both sides of the street, and I'm currently a licensed investigator. We do K-9s, bomb, and narcotics detection.
There you go. So you'll get a good depth of perspective here from
and
us.
If I may add, I am your humble Latino conservative host, which apparently is an anomaly in America. So.
Well, but he also is a winner of a Golden Mike.
I am a Golden Mike winner, correct?
An award-winning radio journalist. I call him El Voz de Oro.
Thank you
Golden
for that.
Voice. So,
yes,
so that's what we got going. And yes, he's conservative, and me not so much.
Wow,
I used to be there.
That's the first time I even heard you acknowledge it to that degree.
Oh no,
you're a dang flaming progressive.
No, not at all.
You're almost the enemy of the state.
No, but depends on which state we're in. So, I was all the way over here, and then I went all the way over here, and I never went all the way over here, but I was all the way over here, and I kind of got into the middle.
And well, you're kind of lost in the weeds now. So, but we're trying to help you. We're trying to do here. We're
trying to convert me.
Trying to help you out.
It's called conversion therapy, and I hear it doesn't work. So, all right.
Try waterboarding.
Waterboarding always works, right? And watch somebody calling. Oh, that's they're talking about waterboarding police officers,
making a joke of it.
That's not funny. That's not funny. Yeah. And if you do want to call in and you want to complain about that or something else that we say, it's 323-293-3375. The last show was on the Oakland PD underage sex trafficking scandal, and we got some pushback because we said that it was a little difficult to picture that victim as a victim.
Is that right?
Yeah, and someone was really offended at that. And
is that right?
I don't know what to tell you. Even the person who was here as our guest that day, who is from an organization that helps victims of sex trafficking, said that she understood why it would be difficult to grasp this person was a victim, that they're not really a sympathetic victim figure, So I don't understand why someone would. No, we didn't say she wasn't a victim. We just said it's kind of hard. It's a hard sell in terms of her being the helpless victim.
That's right.
Because she was obviously a seasoned and street-hardened street prostitute before she ever came in contact with those police officers. So it doesn't mean that she wasn't victimized. She certainly was. It doesn't mean that she wasn't trafficked. She certainly was. It just means that it's not the classic case that you think of when they talk about sex trafficking and victims of human trafficking.
And here, I want to show you guys. I don't know if Marshall had a chance to see. There's the photo.
Oh, yeah.
That's her picture. And
right.
That's why when I saw that, I just thought, okay, well, I wondered, well, how could cops get involved in? And then I saw the picture and I go, oh, okay, well, now I see how.
It's still they're supposed to have better judgment.
Cops are just human, for God's sakes. And the thing that I've learned over the years is that line between criminal and police officer is very thin sometimes.
Well, it is, and someone said, I think it was, I don't want to paraphrase. Was it Hemingway said that if you chase monsters, you have to take care that you don't become a monster yourself.
Right.
And actually, Rafael Perez used that line in his defense when he was sentenced for corruption in the Rampart scandal. That he who chases monsters must take care that he doesn't end up as a monster himself. And he says, I kind of crossed the line, and
he kind of crossed the line.
He crossed the he stepped over the line habitually. He was a habitual line stepper. Yeah. Okay.
I knew you were going
I was going to go there.
Yep.
And I told you we used to be partners in the car. So that's what happened there. But in this case, yeah, man, it's these guys, they're still wrong. They knew what they were doing was wrong.
Right.
Nobody's making any excuses for them. We're just saying that she's not the most.
And her parents worked for the department.
I know.
They both worked for the department. Yeah.
That's terrible. That's terrible, man. So are you familiar with that case? I know you know some people up at Oakland PD there, Marshall.
I do. When I started hearing some of the things that came out, my first question was, were the parents pimping her out?
That's what you thought?
That's my first thought.
Really? Oh, because you'd already known that she. So we didn't find out till later that the parents were working for the department. That didn't come out to us until later, because we jumped on the story about 4 days after it broke, I guess, right?
Not making excuses for anyone, but I have two daughters, and I know that my wife's in law enforcement as well. To have something like that happening and you don't know that your daughter's doing all these things,
that's right,
or doing all these different individuals. I think that at one point they said that a retired captain met her at a hotel. Yep. 80-year-old captain.
Well,
paid $200,000.
So an 80-year-old.
I don't know. Was he 80? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's what the word was. He was an 80-year-old captain.
Oh my God.
He's all up on that Niagara.
Wow. Wow.
He's 80 for God's sake.
Okay, but here's something that's come out. It's kind of a tragic twist. Okay.
Now I'm going to get more pushback for joking, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Because you can't joke about Niagara.
I know. We become sensitive America now. That's right. I'm sorry.
AARP is going to be on you.
And the pharmaceutical industry. But apparently the mom, because her mother and her stepfather work for Oakland PD.
Right.
But prior to the mother being married to the current husband, she had left her abusive husband, and one of the officers who helped her out of that situation, and I'm not going to say his name because the officer's gone, but he was one of the 4 officers who were killed in Oakland that day by that same suspect, Mixon, back in the day.
Right.
And that apparently, he was a hero to that family because he helped the mother out of the abusive relationship, and I guess he kind of became a father figure to this girl. And when he was murdered in the line of duty with the rest of those guys, apparently took a huge toll. And that may have been where this snap happened, where this break happened, this psychic break that started this downward spiral that got to where we got. And I just found that out like last night.
Right.
I didn't know about that. And that's just that's a tragedy that keeps on being a tragedy, man.
Right. And again, that was my first thought. I do know some people up there. I mean, it's tragic all around because of the loss of public trust in law enforcement as a whole.
Right.
I mean, both of you know, doing this show and talking to family members who don't quite get all the things, immediately they turn to you and say, how could that happen?
Right.
What's going on? What's going on with your profession?
Yeah, exactly. We're all held accountable for whatever everybody does, right?
Right, and especially, I do get those questions from some family members, especially the far left side of the family. But
hold on, shout out to Trish. Okay, go ahead,
brother, please, brother, please. But from that side, and a lot of it is driven by the misinformation that's being put out by the media about some of these high-profile incidents. And these, I keep calling them black hate talk radio on Sirius XM. The Karen Hunters of the world and the Joe Madisons of the world and people like that.
Who's the other guy? Who's the Black Eagle? Is that Joe Madison?
That's Joe Madison.
Who's the guy that was not Donald Trump, Ben Carson's guy? Was it Wallace or something like that?
Armstrong.
Yeah,
Armstrong Williams.
Armstrong Williams. I knew it was something like that.
But he's a conservative, so he doesn't spew that kind of hate. He doesn't spew that kind of hate and misinformation.
Not that kind, I've seen him go sideways.
Wait. You can't just put all that on the media.
Okay.
I mean, don't forget the politicians who keep spinning that same thing as
Oh
well.
yeah, I wasn't done.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was going there.
It begins with the president and then moves on down, and then the media becomes his PR firm, and now they want to be Hillary's PR firm, and so that's where it all begins. And it's gotten worse in the last 8 years than it was prior.
Did you guys already touch on the former Attorney General?
Who? Which one?
Eric Holder?
Yes.
No, we haven't. We haven't talked about him.
You didn't hear about his latest thing with Uber?
I did hear he's working for a law firm now. He's working for that law firm that represents Uber.
Right.
And they had an antitrust thing against him or something like that. I did hear that, but
Did you hear about the statement that he put out?
No. Enlighten us.
So he said that Uber should not be held to the standards of background checks by way of fingerprint. That should be reserved for actual criminal matters. And
really,
by doing this, it will actually hurt more people of color who may or may not have been convicted, but may have been
unfairly
arrested.
or whatever.
So last I checked, and you worked at the airport with all the different taxi limos and
right.
everything else that works there. To sit there and say that we don't have people of color doing those jobs already, and all of those
it's
are
ridiculous.
subject.
That's ridiculous. In fact, that's pretty much all you have.
Right, but
doing those jobs.
But he's using his status of former attorney general,
like they all do, sure,
saying that because of his status,
sure,
he's absolutely right, and because he's African American.
Oh, that he can say that,
right.
Sure.
But unless you know, then you realize, well, wait a minute, he's working for Uber.
Right, exactly. He's retained by Uber as counsel, like chief counsel or something at Uber now. So
the bigger scandal about Eric Holder is it turns out that those weapons that were used in the Paris attacks in November came from America.
Fast and Furious.
And part of the weapons, at least one of them, the rifles apparently was a Fast and Furious out of Phoenix, and then another one was some kind of online handgun out of Florida.
Really, I didn't know about that. I knew about the rifle from Fast and Furious.
So if you read the liberal newspapers, they're focused on the gun that was sold through online in Florida with quote close ties close quote to the NRA.
They're not focused on. But okay, but here's the thing though. No, I read on. But remember, I was reading on CNN earlier, and that I didn't see that about the gun, about the handgun. I saw that about the Paris attack and the rifle coming from Fast and Furious, and that was CNN, which is. Pretty far left, right?
Yeah.
For mainstream.
So you could go on. The corruption, the scandals, they just go on and on. However, but these feed this anti-police sentiment that exists in America, and I have seen it get worse since 2009 when Barack Obama came into office. He and that Attorney General, Eric Holder, and that administration have pushed this anti-cop agenda from the very beginning, and now we're seeing the fallout from it.
Well, let me say this too, and I've said this before. I always refer back to that societal pendulum. The societal pendulum.
Look,
things were so far the other way where you could do whatever you wanted and get away with it. You could do whatever you wanted and people would go to bat for you. That when that pendulum, people got fed up and the pendulum was let go, like every other pendulum, it went all the way to the other side, and maybe now eventually we'll get it to rest in the middle. That's just what happens, man. That's just what happens.
That pendulum presupposes that there's no cause and effect. It presupposes
No. It's all about cause and effect.
These things just come and go on their own.
The pendulum doesn't happen without cause and effect. No, the pendulum is a result of cause, and it is the effect of the cause.
Well, I'll tell you what the effect is. Just the other night, I think it was last night or the night before, on PBS on Frontline, there was a special on policing the police, and they focused on Newark, New Jersey. And the journalist that was doing the piece got to ride with the Newark gang unit.
Okay.
Now, I'm watching these guys work, and everything they're doing, everything they're saying to each other, and the way they're doing street enforcement, they were trying to take guns off the street from gang members. Everything I saw made sense to me. I looked at it and go, that's normal police. Okay. That's how we did. In fact, it's the first time I've ever seen a department that does what we used to do the way we used to do it, and still doing it in 2016.
Wow.
So doing it that way, they're changing now because the piece was done in 2015. But it occurred to me as I was watching this thing and then reading the LA Times story about the LAPD officer we were just talking about, whose partner lost her taser to a suspect, and then her partner shoots the suspect, and the shooting's found out of policy. It occurred to me in that moment that what's happening in America is the public, especially 53% of them who are liberal Democrat progressives, they no longer want a, quote, police department, close quote. They now want a public safety agency. They want guys out there with badges and guns, but they don't want them doing enforcement.
Well, you know what? It's funny you would say that, because I saw somebody make a post on social media the other day where they said it would be better if the police sat in the station like the fire department does and waited until they were called.
Mm-hmm. There's some people who are calling for disarming the police, and I saw this story. They want police out there with no guns. They want police with no guns. A lot of people,
who's going to do that job in this country?
A lot of people apparently think there's too many guns in circulation.
Well, there must be. If you just said that Newark, New Jersey was taking them off the streets, out of the criminals' hands. Why would they be doing that if there weren't too many guns?
Well, the guns are out there, but criminals we're talking about the behavior. It's not the gun. There's dopes out there. I mean, I'm surprised the president called for a ban on bombs.
We take dope too. We take dope. We take guns. All that.
That's right. But I saw this other story today about the Chicago Aviation Police Department. At the airport.
Right. They didn't have guns until recently.
Those guys they're unarmed. They're
still unarmed? I thought they got guns recently.
I don't know if they got them yet. They were working on getting them.
Yeah. That's amazing to me.
The story I saw today said that this is on CNN, not only are they unarmed, but they have been told in the event of a terrorist attack, they're supposed to run, hide, and shelter in place.
Just like a civilian. Okay, let me ask you this, though. Do they operate exclusively, and we're kind of getting into our subject on airport security today. That's our topic, is how secure are airports. So we're going to get to that, but let's touch on this since you brought it up. Do they work behind screening in the sterile area where everybody's already screened, or they out working the parking lots and the perimeter?
Both.
Without a gun?
They're all over the place.
In Chicago?
Yep.
Okay.
And if there's a situation, then they call for Chicago PD.
Wow.
Now, apparently there are 250 Chicago PD cops assigned there. And then you have this.
Well, that's probably who's keeping them unarmed, to be honest with you. If that situation's anything like our situation in Los Angeles, that's probably who's keeping them unarmed.
Well, I don't know who's doing it. Whoever's doing it, though, is an idiot.
Okay, well, yeah. Hey, so we have some video we want to show you. In the first video, because everybody talks about, the police are trigger happy, the police want to shoot people, and, and here's that pendulum again. I think that maybe police officers, and this is maybe a good thing, are becoming more hesitant to shoot. The problem is sometimes police officers die when they hesitate, and victims die, hostages die, when officers are too hesitant. But this is a case where officers showed restraint and everything worked out well. So we're going to roll this video. And the situation is the murder suspect who was being interrogated, he'd killed a teenager, and officers came in to switch handcuffs, and while that happened, while his hands were free, he goes for the officer's gun. So watch what happens. I was surprised at the outcome.
Murder suspect tries to grab Cincinnati police officer's gun. Footage released by the Cincinnati Police Department shows the moment a murder suspect tried to grab an officer's gun as he was being handcuffed to the chair in an interview room. In the clip, suspect Thomas Robinson reaches for the cop's gun as he is having his handcuffs exchanged. The officer is able to keep a hold of his gun, while other officers rush into the room and use tasers to subdue Robinson. Local media report that Robinson was being held on a bond of over $1.5 million after being accused of killing teenager Joseph Reno Armstrong. According to the Cincinnati police, Robinson had a gun and heroin on him when he was arrested.
Okay, so that was a situation where I feel strongly, as a former police supervisor, that those officers would have been justified in shooting that guy, justified in using deadly force. This is the case, like many of the cases, and see, thank God for this video, because there's a whole lot of times when police officers could shoot people that they elect not to. Any of us who worked in certain parts of this country, certain parts of this city, for any number of years, could tell you about all the times that we could have shot people and did not. Yep. Restraint is exercised more regularly than it's not exercised. And even when you pull the trigger on somebody, you're really showing restraint. It's just that that's where you have to go at that point. But that's a situation where those officers clearly could have smoked that dude. and they just they chose not to. Maybe because there's so many of them. Maybe because of the tactics. There's another officer in there. You don't want to hit that officer.
I think the quarters were just too tight.
And I'm not second guessing their decision not to shoot.
Right.
I'm not saying that they should have shot. I'm saying that they could have shot. And, this is one of those situations where, situation like that, man, back in the day, it was a contact shot. If the situation was that tight, we would have got up as close to him as we could have and just put one in his head and canceled his birthday, because that's a situation where that guy gets that gun, he's loose in the police station, no telling what could happen.
Right.
But that was that right there kind of illustrates one of the many times that you normally don't get publicized when we don't shoot people that we could shoot. And I just thought it was relevant because it popped up recently, and it was kind of a not necessarily a good case study, but a good example.
Well, the sad part is I actually saw that video and saw some of the quotes on social media, and certain individuals were saying, "Oh, the cops set that dude up. They were trying to kill him. They were allowing him to go and get that officer's gun so they can go."
Wow. But they didn't. They still didn't, though.
But who thinks that way?
Idiots.
53% of America? That's who?
No, not 53% of America.
Just don't call them convicts.
Okay, for those of you who wonder where Gil gets the 53% from, because that's the margin that Barack Obama put the boots to Mitt Romney in 2008 or 2012. And so Gil is still sore about that. And so that's why he keeps saying 53%, because Obama got 53% of the vote, Romney got 47%.
There's this progressive push that this guy brought into office. And, I don't know if you caught any of his speech up there in Canada, but, he makes me want to stick needles in my eyes when he talks because of the disingenuousness of the things he has to say. But that 53% is pushing this agenda, and this is pushing this anti-cop thing, and it brings us right back to where I started. But the public, 53% of them anyway, no longer want a police department. They want police officers to act like security guards now, where you look and you see something and you say, technically, that fits my training and experience, that could be a sign of at least reasonable suspicion of some sort of criminal behavior. But I haven't seen a crime yet, so I'm not going to do anything.
I'll wait till a crime happens.
Correct.
Okay, but let me say this, and I said this when we first started this show.
It better not be the pendulum.
It ain't a pendulum. I'll say this, and I even put the pen down, so I cannot illustrate the pendulum. The fault of where we are with anti-police sentiment in this country,
the White House,
lies at another building, and it's at several police stations around this country. We were out there doing shit we had no business doing. There's video of officers planting dope on people, beating people who don't need to be beaten, or at least maybe not beaten that badly, shooting people in the back as they run away. There's all kind of, and we're going to talk about a couple of crooked, disgraced police officials here in a minute. And we were doing stuff, man. People didn't I haven't seen anybody make stuff up yet. Now, maybe they'll take something and they'll really blow it out of proportion. But there's always some there. We had a lot of our brothers and sisters in blue have violated the public trust to the point where people do have trust issues with the police. We talked about Michael Dowd from NYPD earlier in a couple of shows ago, right, or several shows ago. We talked briefly about Antoinette Frank from New Orleans PD. Mm-hmm. Antoinette Frank committed a robbery while off duty at a store that she worked with her partner. She calls in sick, shows up with her criminal boyfriend, kills everybody in the store, including her partner, who's working off duty. She thought she killed everybody in the store. There was 2 young children who hid. And then she goes and puts her uniform on and responds to the robbery call. And when she gets there, the 2 kids point her out and go, yeah, she's the one who did it. Okay. No, I'm not done. But wait, there's more.
Okay.
When Antoinette Frank went to prison, she's sitting on death row. Somebody buys her house because, she lost it and the bank sold it or whatever. They demolish the house and they find a body under it. Okay? So this is an example of a police officer who's an anomaly.
Thank you.
Who is an anomaly.
She's a not liar. That's right.
She's an anomaly.
That's right.
However, that person exists. We talked about Rafael Perez earlier. Rafael Perez, David Mack, who I knew when he was at LAPD. These guys who are robbing banks and selling dope and and having sex with underage girls up in the Bay Area. We have officers who've done a lot of stuff, man. Barack Obama's not just sitting up there writing fiction on people. This stuff is actually going down. We have to put the blame on our law enforcement brethren for where things have ended up too. Now, maybe the other administrations were more willing to overlook it, okay? But nobody's making nothing up on the police, man.
First of all, the kind of cases you're talking about are anomalies. They're outliers. They're not.
But I just named a whole bunch of them.
1,000 times a day, officers go out there and arrest people. And that's
Sure.
that's that.
Sure.
And I'll tell you this: as a criminal defense investigator, 10 years I did that, and I couldn't stomach it anymore. But for the 10 years that I did it, here's what I found: 97% of the arrests, cops were arresting the right people for the right crimes in the right way.
Undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly. There's a whole bunch of more bad people out there than bad cops.
I definitely agree with you, 100%. And I'm not saying that all police officers are bad. I'm not saying that most police officers are bad. I'm not saying that most police officers are even kind of bad. Most police officers, and when I say most, I'm talking about 99.9% of police officers out there do not come to work with the intent to violate anybody's rights, with the intent to beat people, plant dope on people, to commit crimes, etc. Most cops who get in trouble for doing their jobs and then maybe going a little overboard, or then maybe crossing that line. But they don't start off with the intention to commit crimes for the most part.
Correct.
Again, the outliers are the criminals like Mikey Dowd, like Antoinette Frank. And then notice I didn't have any problem naming off names, and I can keep going. So we say they're anomalies, they're outliers, but there's a gang of them.
Yeah, but we couldn't name all the cops who are out there doing their job every damn day, and arresting people and taking guns off the street and taking dope off the street and not making news and not violating anybody's rights and not shooting anybody when they're not supposed to be shot.
100%. I totally agree with that. But I'm just saying that it's not fiction that police officers, there are police officers out there doing bad shit.
It is fiction that they're doing it to the degree that the White House thinks it is.
Well, they're not. Have they created a fictional officer yet, or are they putting real names to real crimes, real officers?
That is fiction. If you take one incident, one outlier incident, and then you say, oh, you know what, we need to go do a DOJ investigation. We need to monitor this police department. When you have that,
when did that happen? When there was one outlier, and Ferguson had other issues. Before the Darren Wilson, Michael Brown thing, Ferguson, it wasn't just that one thing.
Yeah, but the Darren Wilson shooting was a good shooting. There was no crime. That was not a bad shooting. Michael Brown brought that on himself.
Now, let me ask you this, okay? And somebody asked me this.
And the question I would have asked him is the same thing my grandmother used to ask when you did something stupid. Are you satisfied? That's what I like to ask Michael Brown. Are you happy now?
You know what? We're on a roll, so I'm going to say this. And I haven't spoken on this before, and nobody can find anything I said on social media about it or on this show. But I'm going to break my long silence on that situation. And I'm going to say this.
On which one?
On the Michael Brown, Darren Wilson situation.
Uh-oh.
As a police officer.
I didn't wear my vest today.
As a police officer, you go to stop someone who's been described as a robbery suspect. That's completely within your right to do. Even if that person had not robbed anything and was merely walking down the street, you still got the right to contact that person.
That's right.
Totally in the right, okay? That person is supposed to comply with your lawful orders. The person does not do that, the person is wrong.
Correct.
If you go to detain that person and they pull away from you, they strike you, whatever, that person is wrong.
They're bought and paid for, as we used to say back in the day.
Okay, so now let's talk about that. So, and correct me if I miss any steps, guys. The officer goes to stop the suspect. Suspect will not stop. The officer... there was something about the officer grabbed his arm because he said he felt like he was Hulk Hogan. He was a little kid holding on to Hulk Hogan's arm or something like that, right? Then he said that the officer said that Michael Brown was so strong that he felt like a little kid holding on to Hulk Hogan's arm. Do you remember Darren Wilson saying that? Mm-hmm. Okay. How come Darren Wilson didn't tase him? There was some issue with the taser. He didn't have his taser, or his taser didn't work or something like that?
I don't think they didn't all have tasers.
Okay, so he didn't have a taser then, right?
There was also a confrontation where he got punched while he was sitting in the car.
Yes, he got punched, and that's when he grabbed his arm, and that's when he said he felt like it was Hulk Hogan. Okay. So now we have someone who you don't have a taser. The person does not stop. They run away or they walk away, whatever the hell Michael Brown did after he already committed these crimes we just listed.
He tried to call him over to the car, and he just keeps walking, just misses him. So he pulls around the corner and,
so the officer
and drives up. Here's the mistake he made, is driving up to the guy and trying to talk to him. You know, you drive up, kick your door open, and get out and make contact.
Right, because you're at a disadvantage. But let me get to what I'm saying about that. And this is the only problem I have with what happened there. We've determined that the person is not compliant. We've determined that the person is combative because they already struck you. They refuse to stop, and you told them to stop, and they hit you in the face.
Well, in the fight in the car, one round was discharged. The gun discharged in the car.
Oh, because they were fighting over the gun.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Even better. So the person, you don't have a taser. When you get out of the car, you leave your baton in the car, is my understanding, right? He left his baton when he got out to go contact Michael Brown, or chase him or whatever. Okay. So you have a subject who is non-compliant, who has already demonstrated that he's physically stronger than you, so much so that you said you felt like Hulk Hogan, like you were a little kid trying to wrestle with Hulk Hogan, which means you've been physically overpowered already.
Who you've already fought with in the car while you're sitting in the car.
Already fought with in the car. So you
fought over your gun,
so you know that he's combative, right? That's where I'm going with this. That's right.
And then discharges around in the car.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You don't have a taser, right?
Okay.
You don't have a baton.
I don't know if he did or didn't.
He left his baton in the car.
Right.
Not that he didn't have it, but he left his baton in the car.
I don't know. I don't know, but to me,
so when you get out of the car and you go to chase this person down, you go to contact this person, what options are you leaving yourself? What do you think is going to happen when you get out of the car to go deal with this person? When you know that he's going to fight you,
I see where
you know you can't fight him, you don't have a taser, you don't have a baton, all you got is a gun. What's going to happen in that situation? That could have been argued. Now it's over, so it can't try him again. But it could have been argued that Officer Wilson's tactics and his judgment precipitated that shooting because he created a situation where he had no other options but to shoot Michael Brown. That's the only problem I have with that whole situation.
That's the 53% of people that I'm talking about.
This is this is a 20-year police supervisor talking who's worked as a supervisor at 2 different police agencies.
All right,
that's who's talking here.
Let me just finish. That attitude is the 53% that I'm referring to, because what you want him to do is, hey, I better just go away.
No, not go away.
I better just wait for backup.
That's what you're supposed to do, officer. Or you take your baton with you.
I better do nothing?
No, it's not nothing. It's not nothing.
And try to fight a guy that's bigger than you with a baton?
Hold on a second. Whoa, ho.
Man,
then if you can't fight him with a baton, what do you so all you got is a gun?
You already had a fight over your damn gun.
So
you already
what do you do?
Punched.
So what do you do?
You go after the guy and get him down, call for backup.
What do you mean get him down? How you going to get him down?
Put him down on the ground.
We already determined he ain't scared of you and he ain't compliant.
Okay.
So
he got shot.
That officer left himself with no choice but to shoot a person that he knew he was going to have to fight. And that's the only problem I have with this. And if we could get Darren Wilson on the phone right now, and Darren Wilson, if you're watching, it's 323-293-3375. I guarantee if you ask Darren Wilson, do you wish you had sat your ass in that car? He would say, yeah, just like I was George Zimmerman. I should have sat my ass in the car.
Wow.
I guarantee you. Because that officer's actions precipitated those shootings through his judgment and his tactics. You've already determined that the suspect's stronger than you. You have no means by which to control him except your gun. That's just police supervision 101, man.
You're the president of the union. Tell me where he stands. Do you hold that position? If that's one of your officers he's talking about, is he off his rocker like I think he is, or has he got a point?
Oh, we'd be having a fight on that one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
And that's what he's supposed to say.
But see here,
I mean, that's what he's supposed to say.
But let me talk about some of the things that haven't been discussed yet, and where George is going is where we already are in L.A. Because the police commission is already using that mindset of faulting police officers for their actions of something that happens in, I don't know, a matter of seconds.
That's right.
But what the other part that's not being discussed, that same logic of holding the police accountable, that same group you're talking about, also has part to blame for where we are, in the sense that, think about the police academy when you went through, when I went through.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different.
Definitely.
Because they've made academies softer. And
longer.
Longer, but softer in the sense that...
Definitely softer.
Because the way I'm looking at it is, if you can't be yelled at and dealt with in academy in a controlled environment...
where you're in no danger at all.
Okay, they've taken boxing out of the academy.
Right, big mistake.
Some still have grappling, but a lot of physical contact and
in your face,
somebody's face has been stripped of the academy. Some academies actually had where you had a stress card, where you can actually pull a card out and the attack instructor had to back away, because we had individuals in academia that came in and said, you don't need to yell at people for them to learn.
Yeah.
And those are the same people that are wondering why there's more shootings. And I don't know that there's more. there's just definitely broadcast more.
We're breeding the next generation of victims is what we're doing.
Okay.
And
you start polling and asking the different officers who are on the job right now and say, so what'd you do before this? You're having far less people who say, oh, I just got out of the military.
Right.
Or I've always wanted to be a cop. You have more people saying, I used to work at Kinko's and I felt I could do this job.
Right.
And they let me. So here I am.
Or I saw the bus going down the street, and it says starting pay $48,000 a year, high school diploma. What? I have a high school diploma. Maybe I'll go do that.
Yeah. Or people in their second careers because whatever economy fell out and they're saying,
right, and they're doing this second thing. Right. Okay. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to finish up this topic. We're still going to do our news of the day stuff, and then we're going to jump into our how secure our airports topic. So we'll be right back here on the Right Along Radio Show.
Enemy of the state.
Depends on which state.
Oh, radio.
El Voz de Oro. So we're back, Right Along Radio Show, 323-293-3375. I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras, and he's an enemy of the state.
It depends on which state. To my left is our in-studio guest, Marshall Mc Clain. Officer Marshall Mc Clain, who's also the president of the Los Angeles Airport Police Officers Association, which is the labor union representing police officers at Los Angeles International Airport, a.k.a. LAX, Van Nuys, Ontario International Airport. How many members do you have in your union?
I think we're at 418 right now.
And those are police officers and firefighters combined at that?
Yes, Ontario is dually trained, both crash rescue firefighters as well as police officers. They work a 48-hour shift. They're on 2, and then they're off 4.
Yeah, and now I can say it because I don't work there anymore. But, the joke we used to have is if guys were police officers and they were firefighters, we would joke and say they went both ways. So, boom. I know you can't laugh at that, but I can.
And I'm about to explain that one later.
Yeah, well, tell them to call me. 323-293-3375. Wow, really?
Okay, that's politically incorrect also.
It is politically incorrect.
LA Times.
Barack Obama would be upset with what you just said. So
he would be offended.
Sure.
LAPD commander alleges retaliation after leak of agency's purchase of force owned by Chief. That's old, though, isn't it?
No, just came out.
Oh.
Lawsuit was filed today.
Okay, so they made a big deal about it before, and now he's saying retaliation. I remember hearing about that case.
Yeah. Greg Smith took the case.
Okay. Let me clarify what I said before the break, because I think it bears clarification. I do not believe that Darren Wilson should have been tried for murder in the shooting of Mike Brown. I think that there should have been some internal remedy, whether that be training, some sort of corrective discipline measures, or something like that. If you ask me to criticize that incident, my one critique is I think the officers' judgment and tactics precipitated that shooting in one way or another. And that's the only negative thing I have to say about it. And I've broken my long silence on it because I wasn't ever going to speak on it, but what the hell.
Yeah, and I think Michael Brown's actions precipitated that shooting.
Oh,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
And he paid the ultimate price for it.
That's right.
And again, and like we say with a lot of these cases, it began with zero compliance.
And I tell you what my nana would say.
Zero compliance.
My nana would say, shame, shame, everybody know your name.
So, yeah, everybody does know his name.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. So we're going to get into some, okay, so we already showed our murder suspect grabs officer's gun video, and we talked about restraint. But in the news, and, I'm going to start bringing in this music, a song called He's in the Jailhouse Now, and do a little segment. He's in the jailhouse now. That music from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, where they're singing about the guys in the jailhouse. So we have a former L.A. County Sheriff, Undersheriff, Paul Tanaka, who actually was sentenced to 5 years in prison the other day. And this was a long, unraveling thing that began a few years ago.
Right.
And actually, we have a news clip that will explain that case, and then we'll jump into some talk on that thing there. So let's roll that footage.
Under Sheriff Paul Tanaka is headed to federal prison. He was once second in command of one of the biggest law enforcement agencies in the country. Today, he was sentenced to 5 years behind bars for obstructing a corruption investigation. KCAL 9's Dave Lopez is in downtown L.A., where his punishment was handed down. Dave.
Also, right across the street from the federal courthouse where Paul Tanaka often would walk up those steps, and when he did feel like talking to the media, he would always say, I didn't do it. This is a railroad job. It was my boss, Lee Baca, then the sheriff, who did it. Well, the jury didn't believe it, and the judge today, after a tongue lashing, lowered the boom on the one-time number 2 man in this department. Paul Tanaka, the one-time number 2 man in the LA County Sheriff's Department, who ran for sheriff, is now going to federal prison for 5 years. And the judge who sentenced him, Percy Anderson, gave him a tongue lashing, saying, among other things, quote, ambition and arrogance was more important than following the law.
That's what he said. We, of course, disagree with that.
Dean Stewart, attorney for Paul Tanaka, also reacted to when the judge told Tanaka, quote, you valued loyalty above honor.
I think all of that blended into the judge's demeanor today at sentencing. It's most unfortunate, and that's why they give us a court of appeals.
The sentence today demonstrated that, indeed, no one is above the law.
U.S. Attorney Eileen Decker said the case against Tanaka was built on solid evidence.
His actions harmed the sheriff's department, harmed law enforcement everywhere.
After a month-long trial, it took a jury less than an hour to convict Tanaka of obstruction of justice and conspiracy to obstruct justice. All of it surrounding an FBI investigation into alleged jail abuse at the LA County Men's Jail. Inmates being beaten. And it had to do with an inmate acting as an FBI informant with a smuggled cell phone. Tanaka, according to the evidence, spearheaded the effort to keep all the information from the FBI. And the judge said today the evidence against Tanaka was overwhelming.
Paul is a brave, stoic guy, and he took the sentence in that manner.
Tanaka never said a word in court, and he never said a word arriving in court or leaving. At one point, the judge told him, quote, you did everything to derail an FBI grand jury investigation. Your conduct was a gross abuse of the public trust. Tanaka now remains free on a $100,000 bail. His attorneys will do everything they can to keep him free pending his appeal, but more than likely he will report to federal prison on August the 1st. His boss, the one-time Sheriff Lee Baca, will be sentenced in 2 weeks. Tanaka was also the mayor of Gardena. Now that he is sentenced, he has to resign that post immediately. Reporting live from outside the federal courthouse, I'm Dave Lopez.
Wow. And so, okay, so that's kind of a double whammy because he was the mayor of Gardena, longtime mayor of Gardena, right?
Yeah.
But hey, according to Penal Code Section 15, California Penal Code, let's see if I can remember the section, the definition of a crime or public offense is an act committed or omitted in violation of a law forbidding or commanding it,
right,
and to which is annexed upon conviction either the following punishments: 1, death; 2, imprisonment; 3, fine; 4, removal from office; 5, disqualification to hold or enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit in this state. Mm-hmm. Sir,
must have had to do a lot of knuckle push-ups.
I had to do that to remember that. The academy had drilled it into me, right? So 25 years later, I can still recite it. But so that's why he got snatched out of the mayor's position, because he's disqualified now.
Wow.
And you can't be mayor from the penitentiary.
This
so
guy, he went
even Marion Barry had to come back. He wouldn't let him stay mayor. You know. Remember we met him in D.C. We actually got the chance to hang out with Marion Barry a little bit in D.C.
You scared him, I remember.
Yeah, no, it wasn't me. That was Big Chris. But yeah, you know, unfortunately, and we see this often. If you look at heads of police agencies who go to prison, especially federal prison, is almost always sheriff's officials. And I think it's because the culture of the sheriff's department, the sheriff is not an employee of the county. He's an elected official. So the sheriff is on the same level as other elected officials, and he operates with a lot more impunity because his contract can't be terminated because the mayor doesn't like him.
Right.
And so as a result, and sheriffs issue concealed weapons permits more than chiefs of police do. They both can do it, but the sheriff is usually the one who does it. Hand out all kind of favors. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement agency in that county, or a law enforcement officer in this county. So we see a lot. Mike Corona down in Orange County, and now we've had the sheriff here, Lee Baca, who's going to do some time.
I was stunned when Corona got in trouble down there. I was just stunned at a guy like that.
Well, he was America's sheriff.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah. He was a squeaky clean American sheriff guy.
Well, he wasn't. Joe Arpaio's America's sheriff.
Well, and Joe Arpaio might be going next. So that's what I mean.
Joe Arpaio ain't going nowhere.
Oh, don't talk about Joe like that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I'm not saying I hope he goes, but there's all kind of allegations against the dude.
He's not.
Like I said,
he's not going anywhere.
Lowest recidivism rate.
Yeah, I bet he does with the pink panties he had out in the tent city.
Because they were stealing each other's underwear.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be club fed, for God's sake.
No, and I don't care about that.
It's
they can do whatever. They can make it as uncomfortable as they need to. I don't care about that.
That's right.
But my point is that the sheriff's department, especially here in Los Angeles, has been very cliquish for a very long time.
Right.
And a lot of things have gone on that have been covered up from on high, more so than in other agencies typically. That culture at the sheriff's department is just a lot different, or it has historically been a lot different. and that's been as long back as I can remember. And I was a sheriff explorer in high school, so we're going back to the early '80s and probably before that.
Right.
That there's problems there. So there's a lot of people in prison right now from the sheriff's department.
You saying you don't
because
like
of this
tan and
scandal?
green? You don't like tan and green?
Oh, I love tan and green. It's just that there's some issues with that particular agency. That's all I'm saying. You know, I know some very sharp people over there. Have some friends. Guy I grew up with. A guy I went to junior high school with is a SWAT deputy over there. You know, it's a good organization with a lot of good virtues. But man, that cliquish political stuff, man, and I've seen them turn on their own, and it wasn't pretty.
Are you saying they're a victim of their environment?
I'm saying that's an environment that breeds this kind of thing, unfortunately. And it's hard for anybody to argue when you got a bunch of people from your agency in the penitentiary.
And it really existed, you know, I won my golden mic for covering the race for Lee Baca to become sheriff. I was the first guy to know that Lee Baca was even going to run. I was invited to a meeting in East LA in Montebello. And at the time, Lee Baca asked me, he goes, you know, please don't say anything on the radio or don't write a news piece. You know, don't let it out because it'll really hurt me. We're just in fundraising right now. And
right.
So, and you know,
what did he give you in return for your silence?
Well, you know, I learned years later that there's no such thing as off the record when you're talking to journalists, number one.
Right.
And number two, I should have just, you know, wrote the damn story. So, well, sorry if it hurts you, but this is news.
But you shouldn't have said it in front of me.
Yeah. So anyway, but you know, one of the big arguments against Baca back then was that he just wasn't the guy. He was kind of a moonbeam kind of guy. Had these new age ideas about things. Thought he could bring change to the jails and
a lot of rehabilitation programs, et cetera.
Rehab and you know drug programs into the prisons. He thought all this was going to help, and you know progressive liberals have these ideas about things like, well, if we just give somebody some training or you know a thing, we'll change the very core of the person who they are, and then they'll come out and become productive citizens. It's just not true.
Well, some people just don't have opportunities, man, and I used to be closed-minded about that kind of thing too. And as I got older, and I met more people and went more places, I realized that everybody doesn't start off at the same place in life. Well, and some people do need more help.
I think you know, every cop should have to work criminal defense for a while. But, you know, because you see one side as a policeman, you always see the victims, but you never get to really deal with the suspects except at arrest, and then you see them at trial, but they're back there. When you're there, when you're the investigator and you meet with these guys, you know, you get to see real quick. And I'll just tell you, I was appointed a gang expert on the case, and my partner Stuart was the investigator. And we went up to Wayside to talk to a 187 suspect. And when we got done with that interview, we walked out, and just as we were going to the car, you know, Reggie turns to me and he goes, "Officer, thank God we got prisons." Because that's exactly where that guy belonged.
No, I mean, yeah, you know, there's no doubt about that, man.
But I just want to say this about Tanaka. He did create this culture, this kind of man club. You know, it reminds me of DHS out there.
Well, he was a Viking, wasn't he? Hadn't he been a Viking?
He was a Viking also.
That was a clique in the LA County Sheriff's Department out of the old Linwood station.
He was a Viking.
Where these guys were kind of like I'm going to call it a social club, I guess. But they were deputies who were particularly aggressive in their enforcing of the law. And they all had these tattoos, right? Viking tattoos.
And then there was the Stony Boys out of Firestone.
Oh, Firestone, Stony Boys for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, Tanaka had this culture, this, you know, challenge coin, cigar club, you know, thing going up there at HQ, and you know, you had to be in the group, and only the cool kids could come in, and all that bullshit. And so the judge was exactly right when he talked about Tanaka's ambition and arrogance.
Right,
that's exactly right. And Baca should have stood up to him, and instead, when they found out what the FBI was doing, he turned to Tanaka and says, "Take care of this.
Take care of it." Right,
and he let him run.
Sure, because he didn't want to have to deal with it, because he knew if the FBI was involved, there were some problems. And now they're both going to the joint.
The audacity of this guy to send detectives to an FBI agent's house on the weekend and try to intimidate her and infer that they're going to arrest her.
Yeah,
that's
and
ridiculous.
to the point where she didn't want to come outside and talk to him.
It's ridiculous.
You actually think that Baca's going to do time?
Oh, I think he's going to do some time. He won't do a lot of time.
I hope he gets 5 years, just like his brother, man.
He'll get more than a guy who rapes a girl in Stanford next to a trash dumpster. But he won't get Tanaka time.
I'm guessing 6 months.
That's it?
I'm guessing 6 months. Probably time served in house under arrest. Maybe.
Well, they are going to, you know.
Maybe have to wear an ankle bracelet or something like that.
Well, he ain't going to run nowhere. In San Marino, are you kidding? He lives in a mansion in San Marino.
Well, he is a runner.
That's true.
He's an avid runner.
That's true. Yeah,
he gonna run all right.
74 years old
at the county jail.
So
laps.
We're going to reserve the last segment of the show for our actual topic. But before we get into that, there's another story that's come up
Can I add just one thing about Tanaka?
Yeah, please.
Next week, our guest and studio guest is going to be Frank Stoltz, who's a reporter, a public radio reporter here. He's my former news director. He's on KPCC 89.3 FM in Los Angeles. So he's agreed to come in and talk. He's been following the trial for Tanaka and Baca.
Okay.
So he'll have some good insights. So
okay, good. So we can really drill down into that there and find out some interesting stuff.
So that'll be next week.
Do we have the footage on the LA airport? No, the LA airport deal that I sent you via text earlier.
While
you looking at why you pull that up? So
while she's looking for that, I just want to say that Long Beach PD K9 got killed in the line of duty the other day, 2 days ago, and I have a Belgian Malinois. We do dope and we do bombs. Me and my little company. And, when I first heard the story, I just thought, okay, why are they not saying the suspect shot the dog, the officer shot the suspect?
Right. I remember you said you had some concerns about what was going on with that.
The way it was presented, I just thought, boy, I told a friend of mine on Facebook, I hope this isn't a friendly fire. And that's
right.
Exactly
I remember you
what
said
it turned
that.
out to be. So what a tragedy. I hope, Long Beach has been kind of quiet about it, and I really hope they talk about it so that we can learn what happened and tactics.
Right.
When you let your dog go, that's a big decision to make. And, before I do anything with my dog, her safety comes first.
Well, but we saw that with the DeAndre Brunson situation in Compton.
That was ridiculous.
Where the Compton sheriffs shot the guy on the porch and ended up killing their own dog in the process. Okay, so we had a story.
Long Beach, great department. I was a canine handler for over 5 years. Did a lot of training with their guys. They actually had some of their instructors at our canine school. But if you go down there, you'll see they have a dedicated memorial. They have a dedicated actual site for all the different dogs because, they're doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
a hot city. That's right.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's a hot city. It just breaks my heart, man. And when I saw the photos of the officer kneeling next to
the dog, I know, and he was in anguish about that too.
Yeah, especially when well, I guess
maybe at the time he didn't know, but still he knew the dog was gone.
Yeah.
So we have a story that's in the same vein as the last one we just did about the sheriff's department, and this story is kind of weird for me because it actually involves people that I know. And people that I like, and I'm kind of disappointed for how things have turned out for both of them. But we're going to roll this footage, and we'll have Marshall, who's also knows the same people, and he'll comment on that. And it has to do with a recent guilty plea by law enforcement leadership at my former agency.
Story you'll see only on 2.
We uncover a corruption scandal rocking the LAX Police Department. CBS 2 News at 11 is 30 seconds away. Now to a story you'll see only on 2 at a time when airport security is in the spotlight again. We've made some disturbing discoveries about one of the men in charge of keeping you safe at LAX. CBS 2's Christy Fajardo was the first person to bring it to the mayor's attention.
His bio on the LAX police website reads he oversees the division's $120 million operating budget. But CBS 2 has learned Assistant Police Chief Brian Walker took a plea deal tied to a corruption case. In a hearing so secretive, the U.S. Attorney's Office never notified its spokesman, even Walker's top boss.
Sure, yeah.
The mayor himself was in the dark.
If there's action against somebody, I want to know what it is, and I'll be talking to the head of the airport police right away.
What the mayor didn't know is that one of the assistant chiefs at the world airports pled guilty to misdemeanor charges of falsifying tax records. In court documents, Brian Walker admitted to knowingly and substantially understating his income. Where that unclaimed money came from and what Walker got in return for his plea, the U.S. attorney isn't saying. The files are all under seal. But back in February, in court documents, the government linked Walker, who works at one of the busiest airports, to the corruption case of Ron Boyd, who was the chief of police at the nation's busiest seaport. On a form, prosecutors marked a box saying the cases may arise out of the same conspiracy, common scheme, transaction. A law enforcement source tells us the two became chummy when both worked together at LAX. At Walker's home in Rancho Cucamonga, no one would answer the door, although we know there were people inside. His lawyers had no comment.
This is a great day for us.
What we do know is that Walker's friend Ron Boyd made headlines in 2015 when he was indicted on federal fraud charges, suspected of taking bribes and kickbacks. The FBI said at the time, as chief of police at the port, he secretly set up a company and a profit-sharing agreement with a software developer, then planned to use his high-profile position to steer other contracts their way. In the indictment, the FBI also implicated unnamed associates. This past February, Boyd took a plea deal, admitting to lying to the FBI and federal tax evasion. Boyd has yet to be sentenced, but amid the scandal, he retired.
It's unacceptable for anybody wearing the badge, not only to break the law, that doesn't protect you, and I've said nobody will ever be immune who wears a badge. A person, period, has to abide by the law, especially when it's a law enforcement officer and a law enforcement leader.
As for Walker, his plea is a misdemeanor, meaning he can keep his job. In a statement, his department said, quote, Los Angeles Airport Assistant Chief of Police Brian Walker is on administrative leave, pending an investigation of the circumstances which led to a plea agreement. But the mayor isn't so sure he should stay.
I'll look at that right away.
Christy Fajardo, CBS 2 News.
Okay, so again, that's kind of hard for me to hear, although it's not a surprise to me. This story broke today, but it's something I've been aware of for a while, knowing that it's brewing in the background. I don't know, Marshall. I mean, you know, where does that leave the agency? Obviously, the mayor's not real happy that he didn't know that something like this was pending. Which hell, I knew. So how the mayor didn't know, I don't know. But I mean, I knew about this probably a good month ago, at least. For a fact, I mean, I knew. I'd heard, but I had it confirmed a good month ago. So it's kind of hard to believe that the mayor doesn't know. You think he really knew, or he didn't know, or what?
No, I think he was blindsided. I really do. I mean, to start, it's upsetting. Like you said, these are people that we both know and didn't know them obviously as well as we thought.
And it's hard to defend people when they plead guilty, man.
Well,
right.
it is.
You know?
And, I mean, how many times have you heard in your career, because you were a union man as well, but how many times have you heard, you lie, you die?
Oh, yeah. You lie, you die. You lie, you fry.
So
that's how it goes, yeah.
And I mean, our association, we have officers at home right now who've been terminated for far less, not criminal, not even a criminal situation.
Not even the level of criminality,
okay?
Yes.
Definitely not a federal case, but where they were accused of either conduct unbecoming or they were accused of false and misleading statements.
Well, you said officers and at least one supervisor.
Okay.
For sure.
And they were terminated, not suspended, not demoted, terminated. So when you have an individual who is the head of professional standards.
Now, professional standards, that covers internal affairs, et cetera.
Internal affairs and so on. So when you look at something like that, I use the word egregious because there's other individuals beneath Chief Walker's purview who were caught up in some things and they still didn't get the same slap down as these officers did. So there's definitely an issue of disparate treatment when it comes to discipline when you're dealing with a line officer.
Well, we've been saying for years, different spanks for different ranks, right? They've been saying that for years.
Absolutely.
That's
what I just
one way to put it.
You know
what I just showed you earlier about the LA Times, because that's really going to rock, because you've got an LAPD commander going after Chief Beck.
Right. Exactly.
So if you think about it, if these officers, because the Protective League is suing Chief Beck as well.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that.
So about disparate treatment. So if you now have a commander rank saying that I was treated unfairly, and how's that going to look to the rest of the troops?
Exactly.
Saying that. So with this unfortunate situation, and I do say it's unfortunate because if you don't know the background of Los Angeles Airport Police, I mean, it goes back to 1946, but it really kicked off under Mayor Tom Bradley.
Right.
Mayor Tom Bradley, if you don't know, he was a lieutenant with LAPD, among other things. But back in his time, a lot of people of color were turned away from LAPD. I mean, it wasn't until the late 80s, early 90s, 8 out of 10 officers for the LAPD were male white, and they had to be forced to hire people of color and women. So when you look
at societal pendulum strikes again.
I walked right into that. But when you look at
don't give him any more stuff.
But being that you work there, Airport Police, LA Airport Police is definitely one of the most diverse agencies around.
Incredibly diverse.
I mean, when
incredibly diverse.
At one point in time, I believe at the high point, the demographics was over 60% African American.
Right.
Now we're down to about 22% African American, which is still huge.
Wow.
Compared to most other agencies.
Well, compared to the demographics of the city.
Of the city, I mean, you take Port Police, I believe they're about 40% Caucasian. So it's completely a different.
It's like a reverse. It's like a negative photograph,
right?
Literally. But we talk about diversity. There's also a lot of every ethnicity you can think of is represented.
Absolutely.
At that agency. I mean, one time they did a survey of how many languages the officers spoke there. And it was a couple of dozen languages at least that the officers spoke.
And it should be at an international airport.
Right.
Sadly,
exactly.
from a union point, we had to fight to get actual bilingual pay, and still fighting to get those covered.
Incredible.
But when I say unfortunate, because Chief Walker was over the hiring process when I got hired, and I believe when you were
when I got hired
as
too,
well.
Yeah.
And Chief Ron Boyd.
That's why this is particularly bothersome to me.
It stings.
Yeah.
I mean, Chief Ron Boyd, we thought it was going to be the chief of airport police. He was the captain at the time.
Right.
And back before, the airport police and the port police were actually in the same union back in the day. So people would bounce back and forth. You might promote to sergeant at the airport, promote to lieutenant at the port,
that's right.
and so on. So Chief Boyd went over to be a captain, and most of us knew that Brian Walker and Chief Boyd were good friends and business partners.
Right.
So when the indictment was handed down by Boyd, everyone immediately said, okay, they're talking about other people. It's probably going to be these individuals.
Right.
And it still may be some of the other individuals. We don't know. But
his name was one of them that came up. So one's confirmed.
Right. But what George said earlier about we've suspected this for quite some time. This has been talked, 6 months or more.
Right.
Right. So then it finally came down about a month ago when it was made known that it was public. Just like you can go online and look up who's been arrested in county jail.
Right.
That popped up about this case and that he took a plea deal. So I do believe that the mayor
still didn't know.
I do believe the mayor was blindsided.
Wow.
What I think is just not true is the fact that our current chief is stating that Chief Walker's been on administrative leave this entire time. So one of two things doesn't make sense. One, for the LAWA administration, Los Angeles World Airports, to say that they just found out that it was a criminal issue, but yet they're saying that he was on administrative leave this whole time.
Right. So why was he on administrative leave if there was no issue pending?
If you didn't know about it, right? The other part of it is you all know, when you're put on administrative leave, they take your badge, your gun.
That's true.
And my understanding,
and if you got a take-home car, you leave your take-home car at the park. You don't take it home.
Right. My understanding, he still has a badge, gun, take-home car, and city cell phone. So
wow.
I've got some of my members.
So which one is it?
Sitting at home. Some of them on administrative leave. Some have been terminated, like I said, for far less.
Right.
So what we've been asking for, and we actually put out a press release earlier, just asking for what's already been agreed to. When we got our status changed to 830.1, it became official January 2014, and that was a long fought battle.
Very long.
George was a part of that too.
Very long.
Where part of that agreement, or part of the hoop that they made us jump through that they didn't make anyone else jump through, was that we would agree to allow the Inspector General from LAPD to come in and audit our police department. Now, I think that was put out there so that we would shy away from trying to push forward for 830.1 status. But as George well knows, we get audited all the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about a proprietary agency that is backed by the federal government. So they're always looking at either ways to try and merge us into LAPD or making sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing. So one more audit was fine. In fact, we took it to a whole nother level, said, hey, great, go ahead, bring the Inspector General in so maybe some of these things will stop happening. When have you ever heard about a police union asking for more transparency? We believe that we should be above. We should be above reproach.
Right.
And we want to go ahead and pull the curtain back and let you see that, it's not just some guy behind the curtain, that we're actually doing things and doing them right. And if we're not, okay, then let's fix them and let's move on forward.
Right.
So I think what the public wants to know is, as this story breaks out in the news and people are becoming aware of it, they want to know two things. One, how does this impact their safety at the police department, I mean at the airport. And then number two, how does this reverberate with your relationship between the airport police department and the Los Angeles Police Department officers that are assigned to the airport? Because you're like two separate agencies. Are you guys doing the same things, or
there's some redundancy?
How do you break that airport up between the LAPD and the?
But now that's going to be a long answer, and we need to go to break. Okay. And then we need to come back and jump into our topic. But maybe we can do that another show and devote our topic to that. That's a long answer.
That is a long answer, but I can definitely address the question about airport safety when we get back.
Okay. So we're going to take a break, and we'll get back, and we'll actually get into our topic, how secure our airports.
Refried confusion is making itself clear.
All right, and we're back here on the Ride Along Radio Show here on the Morris Media Network. I understand we have a call. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Bernard Wilson, calling from Nashville, Tennessee.
Chief Bernard Wilson.
How are you?
Wow. Hey, sir, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while.
How are you?
Good. So you're in Tennessee now, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what do you got to say about all this, Chief? It'll be interesting to have your perspective.
Well, I was just caught your show, and I just wanted to say that, yeah, it's very surprising news, very shocking news, very sad news to hear what came out today.
You there?
It's one of these things, though, that, the airport police is strong enough, resilient enough where it will live through this, but it's a very sad situation, and as you mentioned on the show, knowing the people involved in this really, really strikes home, and it really hurts.
Definitely. I mean, my demeanor is completely different than when we're talking about the Paul Tanaka situation, because I didn't know him.
Right.
But I know both of the people we're talking about. I mean, we know each other. And it's just kind of, a different situation.
And Brian in particular.
Yes.
I actually hired Ron Boyd to be a captain at LAX when he came over from the port. And then Brian Walker was the last captain I promoted when I was
That's
on
right.
the job at LAX.
Right before you retired, yeah.
You hired both of us.
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I did something right anyway.
All right. Wow. Well, thank you.
I don't know. Chief, I'd like to know what happened to George. How did he become an enemy of the state?
Depends on which state. Not in Tennessee.
Well, it's beautiful here. But just continuing on the theme for your show, I don't want to take up all your time here, but the situation, what's going on in the world, what's going on at airports, you're doing the right thing by looking at what happens everywhere else, analyzing it, and then taking a look at the realities of it. And what I'm reminded about with the attack that happened in Turkey the other day is that we had an incident that occurred at the 1984 Olympics, where it was a very sad, unfortunate thing where we had a police officer.
Right, Metro Division. I remember that. Right. Jimmy Pearson or something, right?
Yes. And he wanted to be a hero. He made a fake bomb and basically made like he had found it and saved people and all that. But at the time when it was going on, we thought it was real.
Right.
And there was very, very conscious thought going through my mind that this might be the one thing I may not live through. And I was about 25, 30 feet away from where this supposed bomb was. But, going back thinking about it, there had been a previous attack in Ankara Airport in 1982. And immediately this thing that goes through the mind of an experienced airport police officer is how possible is it for that thing to have happened someplace else to now be translated into happening here? And the reality was, gosh, this could be a repeat of the Ankara attack back from '82.
Right, and that was the That was at El Al ticket counter, wasn't it? The Ankara attack.
In Ankara, I'm not sure. I don't think it was El Al. I don't think Israel was flying to Turkey at the time.
Oh yeah, probably not. That might have been TWA then. I remember I did some case studies on previous attacks.
Yeah. And then, of course, in 1985, we had the attacks at Vienna and Rome, concurrent, simultaneous attacks, Rome and Vienna.
Right.
And we had repeats of that potentially happening at LAX. We actually got threats called in where we had a threat that we were going to have a very similar attack happen with us. So the lesson learned there in those types of attacks is that you can't prepare for those when you hear about them and think they might happen to you. Preparation and readiness is something that has to be an ongoing thing.
And if you're ready, you can actually, what's the word I'm looking for? You can discourage, you can deter some of these attacks. That's the word I'm looking for, is deterrence, by your preparation, because terrorists send out people to scout as part of their target selection.
Right.
And if you look prepared, they'll find another airport that's not prepared.
Absolutely. I recall an incident a couple years ago where we found our motors were riding around and found 5 male, happened to be Middle Eastern. I say happen to be so you don't get all upset. But happen to be Middle Eastern fighting age. And,
I love it.
And none of the individuals had any luggage.
No tickets.
They all had brand new clothes. They all had brand new driver's license, all from the same state, and a brand new car. And they were scouting us out. They were walking up the level, and luckily we had a lot of motors rolling around at the time, and they stopped each one and put all together and figure out it was just a team probing out our security.
Right. Well, actually, we're gonna show a video of the Ankara attack yesterday at a Turkish airport attack in Istanbul, the Ataturk airport attack. Chief, I appreciate your call, and I'm really glad that you called in, sir, and hopefully we can get you to call in and be a guest when we cover this.
That'd be really cool
in a future show.
Absolutely, institutional knowledge like none other.
Keep up the good fight on this.
Hey, thanks, Chief, and thanks for all your help in the past.
Be well.
Okay, so we're going to get into our topic, and that was a nice segue to actually have a former chief of the airport police, a retired chief of the airport police.
I just want to say, the level of guests that we are getting, we have evolved so much since the very beginning. I mean, we're just, it's pretty cool, and it's and making a good contribution to the show here, right? They really are adding value to the show. Absolutely.
So we're going to show you a video of the Turkish airport attack, and the death toll is now up to 41 as of last count. This is a video from the Associated Press.
Hours after a deadly terror attack in the busy Istanbul airport, with many bullet holes still visible, a massive cleanup operation has started. A flight information board showing many flights cancelled and a host of others delayed. Turkish authorities are now trying to piece together how 3 suicide attackers armed with guns and bombs killed 41 people and wounded scores of others at the Ataturk airport. Speaking on a condition of anonymity, officials had originally said none of the attackers got past security checks at the entrance, with 2 detonating explosives at the international arrivals terminal and the 3rd in a parking lot. The government blames Islamic State extremists for the attack. Families of those who had died or missing are gathering outside of morgues waiting for news. Funerals are beginning for some of those killed. The victims include at least 23 Turkish citizens and 13 foreign nationals. The Istanbul governor's office says more than 230 people were wounded. Turkey has suffered a series of attacks, and the increasing frequency and scale have scared away visitors and devastated the economy, which relies heavily on tourism.
How do I feel about the situation? I'm gutted. I feel absolutely terrible. This is happening to Turkey. Everyone that we've come across here has just been so gentle and nice, and I think it's devastating for the economy and for tourism here.
The Turkish government has stepped up controls at airports and land borders and deported thousands of foreign fighters, but is struggling to tackle the extremist threat while also conducting security operations against Kurdish rebels, who have also been blamed for some recent deadly attacks. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.
Okay, and so, there once upon a time we would see an attack at a foreign airport and we would not put together in our minds that that's something that could happen here.
Right.
But it has happened here, and it's happened in this city, and it wasn't all that long ago, right?
Right, that's right.
And now, of course, and we had an attack prior to that, July 4th, 2002. Mm-hmm. And so...
November 1st.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, before that, right? So November 1st was the most recent one, 2013. Mm-hmm. And then before that, we had July 4th, 2002, just at LAX. But, there's this new tactic where terrorists come in, and before they would have either they'd come in and have shooters or they'd have suicide bombers. And now I guess they decided they're going to get more bang for their buck, and the shooters then turn into suicide bombers. Right. The guys come in with the bomb vest, and they get as deep as they can by shooting their way in and either get to the objective and detonate themselves, or they're disabled by a police officer, and before they bleed out, they detonate themselves, or
they trip and fall.
Well, that's happened too, right? Or they reach their objective before the assholes blow themselves up. But they've switched tactics, and actually it's a very effective tactic because, you're standing there with a handgun and you try to take a headshot on a guy because you don't want to shoot him in the chest if he's got a bomb vest on, my God, right? That's one of the first things you learn when you learn suicide bomber interdiction is we go for headshots. That's what we trained. So it's really a tough one, man, but we got to do something. So now in the face of this, Marshall, and you work at one of the busiest airports and one of the most famous airports in the world, and therefore the most high-profile target in this country, how secure are our airports in the face of this new threat we're seeing?
Well, how secure is LAX? That's what people want to know.
Yeah, but I mean, Marshall's also involved with a nationwide organization of airport police officers.
Correct.
So I mean, he gets to go all over and see. And of course, those of us who travel a lot, or if you do airport security assessments, we have a saying that you've seen one airport. You've seen one airport because they're all different. Right. So, but there has got to be some commonality there in terms of our level of preparation, right?
Well, it should be, and that's a perfect segue. So, myself, along with a guy named Paul Nunziato, who's the president of PAB, the Port Authority Police, New York, New Jersey, as well as the president of DFW Airport. So what we did was we took West Coast, East Coast, Middle America, and all sat down and started talking, and we realized we had some of the same issues, some of the same concerns. So we all got together, went out to D.C. and met up with then TSA Administrator Pistol,
right,
or Pistol A or Pistol.
Pistoli or something, yeah, Pistol.
Well, his background was coming from the FBI. Unfortunately, what we found out is that he wanted to build his own fiefdom within the TSA. And get them to do more police type.
Another Paul Tanaka.
Yeah.
Well, another
arrogance and ambition.
Yeah. So some of that is where the TSA is now, trying to be armed, change their name to officer, change their uniforms to look more like
metal badges.
Because I heard the same thing about the federal air marshals. They had the same problems.
Well, they're on the ground now for the most part.
Wow.
They came up with something called Viper.
Right.
Sounds cool, but the acronym is.
So the actual, plainclothes air marshals armed, they're no longer on flights?
They're on flights,
too. There are
some,
but less frequently. More often than not, they're on the ground being the armed presence because they fall under DHS and fall under TSA now.
Wow.
So
it gets worse. You ready?
What a waste.
So you
tell them what Viper stands for.
What a waste.
Listen to this.
Vehicle Intermodal Passenger Interdiction something or other.
Okay, but the I, here's the important part. This is the word I wanted them to say. Intermodal. That means they're not just at the airports. Intermodal means between different modes of transportation.
Right.
So you might see them at a bus station. You might see them at a train station.
You might see them at Super Bowl.
Right, Super Bowl.
Well, we just found
Academy
out
Awards.
you might see, or it was over 33,000 events, I believe, 3,300 events, of presidential candidates.
Oh, they're using TSA to screen there too? Well, I mean, they screen large numbers of people.
Wait. But this is the same time when we're saying we don't have TSA at the airport.
Right. So how come we don't have TSA? Yeah, that's true. They had to find something to do because TSA was getting pushed out. If you go to SFO, San Francisco Airport, that's not TSA up there.
Looks like
they look like TSA,
right, but
they're not TSA. And there's other major airports that's the same thing. It's a private company, and those are all former TSA employees. But TSA's got to find stuff to do now. So intermodal is the key, because now they can be at different places.
Right. So, I remember when I first heard about Viper, the story I saw, they were at a bus station. I think it was Amtrak or something.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and you both know this. Can a federal officer enforce any state or local laws?
Nope, and people don't even know that. If I'm an FBI agent, the three of us are FBI agents, and we're sitting at Denny's having lunch, and somebody comes in to rob that Denny's, and we can take action, make sure nobody gets hurt. But in terms of placing that person under arrest as an officer of the law, we don't have the authority to do that because that is a local crime. Federal officers do not have that authority.
And they don't have the same authority under 830.1 that a peace officer enjoys.
No, they do.
Right, they do not. They do not.
So to answer your question, are our airports safe? They're not as safe as they could be, but they're currently as safe as any other airport. And I know that's not a comforting answer, but let me tell you some of the problems.
Well, before we get to the problems, though, try to clarify for me and the listeners, and we're actually live on Facebook, too, right now. I'm testing this out.
Oh, nice.
I'm testing it out. How do LAPD and the LA Airport Police, how do they merge, or how do they... How do they... No, I don't mean merge as one agency. I mean, how do they merge duties at that airport? Who takes care of what? Who decides that?
Well, the primary law enforcement agency at LAX is LA Airport Police. LAPD is there to augment the airport police. And
how many officers do they have assigned to the airport?
I don't know.
Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you have a rough guesstimate?
I've asked that number multiple times and told I can't have it. But
what's your guess?
Guesstimate
George?
Is anywhere between 50 to 150.
Right. If you include K9 and Bomb Squad.
K9, Bomb Squad, the substation, detectives. It's about between 50 and 150.
Wow, because for an airport that size, that just seems.
Well, that's because you have hundreds of airport police officers there that chase the radio and do all the other stuff, and yeah.
Right. So the only function that LAPD currently does that we're not either doing or capable to do by statute is the bomb squad. Bomb squad is the only thing that we don't duplicate.
You guys don't have bomb dogs?
We got bomb dogs. He's saying bomb squad.
Gotcha.
Bomb squad.
Gotcha. Technicians.
Yeah, bomb squad are the guys in the Hurt Locker suit.
Right.
We have bomb dogs.
And out of the 55 plus 830.1 agencies in the county, there's only 2 bomb squads, sheriffs and LAPD.
Right.
So if we have to call our own bomb squad, that's not unlike any other police department.
Right.
But as far as detectives, as far as canines, as far as everything else, we're already doing it.
And that's not to say that the LAPD officers who are there don't do a good job. I mean, they're very professional, and they do what they're supposed to do.
On the line level officer, there really typically is not a problem. We work hand in glove. It's where it gets into politics is something else. And part of that is part of the problem.
So when you guys show up for roll call, like when you have,
there's separate roll calls. We're not together.
Oh, okay.
No.
So they're giving their own information to their guys. You're giving your information.
The only one where it's joint is in the joint unit, such as the detective unit, the K9 unit. Those are both joint units.
Okay.
So you're having joint roll call.
Right. And I was going to say, when I retired from the K9 unit at LAX, and we'd have roll call, and half of my people would be LAPD and half of them would be airport police.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense for the specialized units, but it just seems to me, like the motor officers, I guess, do they have patrol guys?
There's no more LAPD motors there. It's only ours.
Oh, okay.
They do have a small contingent of individuals at the substation, and what we're told is they're there in case the flag goes up so they can be the liaison with the division, which is 3 miles away.
So in that active shooter incident that occurred at LAX in 2013, it was your guys that were there. It was your guys that engaged the suspect. It was your guys that put him down.
All airport police. Yep.
Right.
Now there was an LAPD response. They responded along with other LAX follow-on responses, but the shooters were LA Airport Police.
Because it seemed to me, because I was actually on the radio with David Cruz that day when that occurred, and it seemed to me that once LAPD got there, they kind of took over. And one of the things I was wondering is the TSA agent that was shot, why he laid there so long, why they didn't immediately move his body and get him out to the paramedics, because you could have formed up a small element. Even if you thought there was additional suspects, you could have formed up a small element, somebody pull him out, put him on a chair, push him out while somebody's covering your 6, and get him out to the... Yeah, I just think he laid there for too long and bled out.
Oh, I'm so glad Gil said this, completely unrehearsed. Neither one of us coach him on it. We've never discussed this before, but this is a conversation we've had many, many a day, and I'm really glad you're the one that's saying that.
Well, in your question, you answered it at the same time, because when LAPD got there, they took over, or attempted to take over. Now, let me explain to you the difference between LAX and Port Authority, the way they run things out at JFK or LaGuardia or any of those. Okay. Keep in mind, NYPD is the largest police department in the country.
Right.
But unfortunately, some people think that there's only 2 police departments in the country, NYPD and LAPD, and that's it.
Right.
Unfortunately. But I'll tell you, the difference is in New York and New Jersey, and remember, they're in 2 different states. When there's an incident that happens at one of their airports that falls within the city of New York, any responding units from NYPD come to a staging area, and the Port Authority lets them know if they need those resources or not before they come on the property.
That's what I was wondering.
Okay.
If that was,
but
the
that's
case in
because they're not
LAX.
already there. LAX, they're already integrated into this the response.
But in comparison to your guys' numbers, they're just there in small numbers.
Right.
Absolutely.
To be too effective, it seems to me.
Right. And coming.
Well, they're part of a larger coordinated response.
Right. Because you're still
Right.
talking about 9,000 plus citywide. The
Right.
problem is
that have to eventually get to you.
Right.
Right.
And we
if need be.
we have same radios and such, but there's still a large disconnect. If you pick up a cell phone or if you pick up a hard line and you dial 911 in or around the airport, you pick up a payphone there and dial 911, it's not going to go to us. It's going to go to LAPD's dispatch or it's going to go to CHP.
Okay.
So there's still that disconnect that we've been trying to change for quite some time. I mean, you guys both been in LA County. I can name off 5 agencies that have less than 50 people that have their own 911 system.
Right, exactly.
We're dealing with upwards of 175,000 passengers per day coming through LAX. I don't have the numbers on the volume of calls we have per day, but it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a city within itself. We have over 45,000
Right.
employees alone. So the only reason why that when that went down on November 1st, that our guys got there as quick as they did, even though some people say that was still slow, is because there was a contractor that actually had our dispatch number there because he was a contractor there. Otherwise, it would have probably taken additional maybe 5 more minutes just for LAPD to transfer the call, which typically they don't do. They respond, they send units, and one of our guys may hear it on the scanner saying, hey, what is LAPD responding to at Terminal 1, Terminal 2?
Wow.
Right? And
that is so antiquated to me.
Right. It's inefficient.
That's ridiculous.
But it's about, this is where it comes into. This is not about the line level officers. This is about the politics and this is about the resources of money. At one point in time, when LAPD was there on the podiums, they were averaging over $1.1 million per month in overtime. I said $1.1 million per month in overtime.
Per month,
right.
Okay? So when some of the press releases we put out in regards to, failing equipment, lack of staffing, camera systems, all of these things that could improve airport security, well, we've got to feed the beast. And what Big Blue is there draining money from the airport, that's taken away from what we could be doing institutionally and fixing up things that need to be fixed.
And let's talk about that too, because a lot of the officers, it wasn't the airport is paying for this officer's salary and they're paying for the officer's benefits. It was they're paying for the officer's salary, their benefits, their retirement, and then there's a profit margin on top of premium on top of that. So essentially, LAPD was treating its officers like they were a for-profit security company. Seriously. And sending officers to the airport and charging them.
Right.
And that was a way to legally, and I'm making air quotes, to divert revenue from the airport because otherwise it's illegal. You can't do it. So they found a way around that by billing those officers at a premium.
It's called federal revenue diversion, what it is.
Wow.
And actually, the city of Los Angeles has been cited more than any other city in the country for that. At one time, remember Mayor Reardon? Remember Mayor Reardon?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Remember John McCain?
The senator?
John McCain.
Oh, yeah, McCain.
That same one.
Sure.
So
he's the one who lost in 2008. Go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Bam!
Again,
all right.
Enemy of the state.
See?
Thank you.
Only Arizona.
53% of the country.
So Mayor Reardon believed, hey, I'm the mayor, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to charge the airport $30 million to hire more police officers for the city. And they said, hey, you can't do that. Airport money is for airport purposes.
Right.
He said, I'm the mayor, I can do whatever I want. Because, again, we're all city employees.
Right.
We're just proprietary, and the airport literally cuts a check, sends it to the city to pay our salaries.
Right.
We're not paid by any tax dollars or anything like that, so don't get it twisted.
Right. Okay? The money comes from
the airport.
Right. Money generated by tax revenue, concession fees, et cetera.
I was just at LAX so I can't say, hey, I pay your salary. Get me out of here quicker.
Well, see, and that's where we talk about throwing shade and people hating because we just got through doing this contract. We're finally up to parity in pay with LAPD, and I get people all the time saying you guys shouldn't get paid what you get paid. Because you're not LAPD, you don't do what LAPD does. Now, remember Port Authority that I mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Remember NYPD I mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Okay, NYPD is the largest department
in the country, 50,000 officers.
Okay?
Right.
Port Authority actually gets paid $15,000 more than NYPD. So all we were asking is to be paid the same as LAPD, not more. The same. And keep in mind, those LAPD officers that you mentioned at the airport are being paid for by the airport.
to do the same job.
To work at the airport.
Right.
So when they leave the airport, now the city has to pay for them, or at least they're supposed to. So so when we're talking apples to apples, we were literally talking apples to apples because everybody's going through the same academy, same training.
Same exact hiring process, same medical, same psych, same interview, same everything.
Same everything. Mm-hmm. But those were the disparities were. So when the mayor said, hey, I'm going to take $30 million out, Mayor Reardon, not this current mayor, he did that, and they said, hey, you can't do it. He did it anyway. So in order to get his attention, what they did is the federal government went in, Congress passed it, and they zeroed out all revenue for any transportation for the entire city. Zeroed it out, line item, until you pay it back.
Wow.
Okay, we'll give the money back. Because not only did he take $30 million, he turned around and said, we're going to change the landing fees and go up by 300%.
Right.
So the airlines got upset as well.
Sure. And that's who did him, probably.
So what's been going on since back then is they've gotten smarter ways to do it.
So instead, we'll just sell you these police officer hours.
Right.
At a premium, which, is not what's supposed to happen.
Back when Chief Parks was the chief.
But getting back to the safety aspect, though, so these two departments, they have way fewer officers than you guys do. How is the setup in terms of I go back to this active shooter thing that occurred in November of 2013. I was watching it unfold, and active shooter training is one of the things that I do. Yeah. And so I understand, blowout kits and stopping the bleeding and getting people to medics and all that stuff. It just seemed to me like, LAPD came in and they're the ones that kind of stopped everything. Think, there's maybe additional suspects. No, he can't go. No, you can't come close. It didn't make any sense to me.
Keep in mind, that was happening when those individuals didn't even know the layout of the airport.
That was allowed to happen.
There was three.
Also,
there was three to potentially 4 different command posts, separate command posts, not unified command. It wasn't unified at all. It was individuals trying to say who's in charge.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is it would be far more efficient to run it the way Port Authority does, to have those additional resources come in and say, hey, this is what we got. What do you guys need?
Right, exactly.
And you call them as you need them.
That makes much more sense to me. So given that that's not how you're set up, because it seems to me, because I was just at the airport the other day picking up Patricia. She just came back from France. Nice. So I'm there at the airport, and I'm thinking about the attack that occurred in Turkey, and I'm thinking, man, if I was the chief of this department right here, I would want to push my perimeter out. So out on Westchester Parkway, I think I would be having checkpoints. I think I'd be using my motor officers more, out there. Right. I'd want to be stopping vehicles further away from the interior of the airport because of the attack that occurred in Turkey, because of the threat level that's gone up, because of the tactics that are employed, and because of this new, quote, homegrown, close quote, threat that isn't so new. Seems to me we got to push it out further before and not allow them to even get as close.
The individual that just called in?
Yeah.
Chief Bernie Wilson, institutional knowledge about airports and how to patrol them and how to police them is the difference. There's a lot of things that we used to do that we aren't currently doing now because our current chief is 34 years from another department.
Well, he's from LAPD, for God's sakes.
But
he didn't police the airport.
The problem is he's never
worked in the environment.
No, I know that, but that's what I see as problem with these other city agencies and other agencies around the county is you have all these retired LAPD brass taking over as chiefs or whatever at these different places, and they're all trying to make mini LAPDs.
Yeah, Burbank is talking about doing.
I swear we didn't talk about this off the air. We really didn't. This is all organic from somebody who's looking at it with fresh eyes.
Don't misunderstand me, because I'm not saying that we couldn't have a chief from another agency come and be an effective chief at our agency. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is when you don't take the institutional knowledge that's already there and use it to your advantage, when we try to explain things about the culture of the airport and ways to do it, and you're closed mind to that because you want to do it the way it was done at another agency.
Another environment.
Okay,
right.
A perfect example is the screening stations. Okay, the screening stations for over 11 years. When I talked about that $1.1 million per month,
right?
LAPD was parked there for about 11 years since 9/11. Paid there on overtime. As soon as they were pulled out and we put our officers there on straight time, all of a sudden, it wasn't necessary anymore. In fact, that same Administrator Pistol said that it's not a mandate anymore. It used to be a mandate from the Fed saying this shall happen. And because it was a mandate, they had to reimburse it. When they removed the funding, they removed those officers, and then the shooting happened within 6 months.
Wow. So I know we're running out of time here, but so I guess what the people who are listening and people who have tuned in because of the post that you put up there, and it shows an airport police guy in BDUs with a patrol rifle, are they safe enough? Is there enough coordination of emergency responders over there to keep you safe? Can somebody get in? The traffic was just ridiculous the other night when I was there. But can somebody, drive in through Uber, pull a bag out of the trunk, and then take a handgun out or unfold the stock and just? Well,
sure, but they'll be met with a response like they got last time.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, we've got experts there, highly motivated, highly trained. I truly hope, and we are moving towards that with a new general manager. She has some new ideas of things she wants to do. We are interviewing for a new police chief. That should be done probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So there are some things that are moving that should cut out some of the bureaucracy that's gone on in the past. But in terms of the level of training, actually right now we just went through a class, which you were familiar with, but it's a different one in terms of doing behavioral detection officers. We're training up all of our officers to be behavioral detection officers trained by the Israeli, actually former Israeli government officials. So,
and they're experts. And
those guys are the experts at that.
To put a fine point on it as we wrap it up, these things are happening nationwide. So when we talk about how secure are our airports, we're talking local LAX, that's what we understand. But also, Marshall can attest to this, as he said earlier, New York, New Jersey Port Authority, DFW, these are the major airports in the East Coast, West Coast, and in the middle. And they're setting the trend for airport security and safety to be enhanced. And we're seeing a higher level of response training and a higher level of preparation. So they are as safe as they can be in the face of this new threat. Unfortunately, like any other threat, we're responsive to the threat. Something new happens, and now we got to formulate a response for that, right? So your airports are safe in terms of you being able to fly out and get to your destination. You still got to keep your head on a swivel.
Absolutely.
Because we can't stop everything, right?
We can't have those 53% that he was talking about try to take away our assault rifles.
Right, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So representing the 53%, we're going to sign off. And listen, our social media is as follows. So you can follow us on Twitter, Right Along Radio. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at Right Along Radio Show. Or you can send us an email at rightalongradioshow@gmail.com. One of our favorite forms, though, again, to answer questions and respond to comments is on YouTube. This show will be uploaded. You're probably watching it on YouTube right now. And you can leave a comment below. And
leave a nice comment, for God's
Leave
sakes.
a tasteful comment. I mean, it doesn't have to be positive, but don't be ignorant, okay?
Ignorant.
Don't be ignorant.
Don't be ignorant.
Just leave your comments, and then we'll respond in kind. So, signing off, I'm George Holt.
I'm Gil Contreras, and this has been
Right Along Radio with our special guest, Marshall Mc Clain from the L.A. Airport Police Officers Association.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming
we'll have
in,
you
Marshall.
on in the future, man. Thank you for your contributions tonight.
Good stuff.
All right, folks. We'll catch you next week on Right Along Radio.
The Vi.